Hi everyone, very good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Let me share my screen. I hope you are able to see my screen. Okay, so it's time to open the code part. So, so what we discussed. Okay, so we implemented a regular expression for name field. That means name field doesn't have any kind of special characters or special symbols. So we need to have the characters only. So for better understanding, I'm going to implement the regular expression in the console. So what we are going to do, so we have to implement the regular expression, and the regular expression is for the name field. So we know the name field should not contain any kind of special characters or special symbols. So I'm going to use where reg equals to, and we have to define the regular expression like this. So we have to avoid the digits. So I'm going to use slash d. All right. Let me use the console.log statement here. Console.log, and what we have to do, so we have to pass the parameter. So reg.test. So again we have to pass a string as the parameter here. So I'm going to pass my name. Send execute it. Now we're able to see that is true. Very similar to this, I'm going to use 091. So what will happen? That is also true. So because we didn't use any kind of starting character or ending character. That is the reason we are not able to observe this. So let me use it should not contain any kind of numerical values there. So I'm going to use this one and execute. Now that is false. Again I'm going to use Hanuman only. That is also false. We are able to see that false. So okay. So because we have to maintain the length of the characters, because we are not supposed to maintain the length of the characters. So it's better to use the phone number, because phone number we can maintain the characters, number of characters, because the standard Indian mobile number should have 10 digits in it, right? So I'm going to implement the regular expression for the mobile number now. So I'm going to use where reg equals to. So here I'm going to use the starting symbol as well as the ending character. So instead of these two, we have to represent the regular expression. So I'm going to use 6 to 9, because the phone number must and should start with 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, right? So again we have to use the range. So we have to implement the beginning character. That is the reason I used 1. And very similar to this, we have to maintain other digits. Alright, so we have 9 characters or 9 digits here. So this is the regular expression for mobile number, right? So I'm going to use console.log statement for testing. Console.log statement. And here what we have to do, so we have to use reg.test. Alright, so we have to pass the mobile number here. So this is a standard mobile number, standard Indian mobile number. So we can implement the regular expression for the name field also, but we have to maintain the length. So that is the reason I used mobile number. So I'm going to use 955, no, 555, 455, and 100. Alright, so let me check it out. Now we're able to see that is true. Very similar to this, I'm going to decrease a number from 0 to yes, that's it. And I'm going to execute, that is false. Alright, so now this is the regular expression for this, but how we are going to implement that in React application. So I'm going to use the coding part. Alright. So yes, we used some kind of item length also. Yes, that is the reason it's better to maintain the phone number, because phone number we can maintain the length, right? Alright. So let me use the mobile number here instead of these text and email. Input type equals to. So here we have to use number because phone number doesn't contain any kind of characters. The phone number should not contain any kind of characters or any other special symbol. So that is the reason I used a number. So input type equals to number. I'm going to use placeholder. And this is the mobile number. So I'm going to use mobile number here. Alright. So this is how we are going to represent the mobile number. So when we are going to check it by using npm space star and execute it, so it will take much more time for execution. Meanwhile, I'm going to implement the test condition for this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to represent uh, I'm going to represent a simple state effect. So I'm going to use state here. So use state, and here we have to represent the state. State is like a function, right? So we have to use destructuring here. So what we are going to do, so we have to import. So for example, this is all about the function. So I'm going to delete all the stuff here. So here, for better understanding, I'm going to use useState for declaring the validation styles. So that is something like where I'm going to use background, and I'm going to use set background. Alright, so for initialization, I'm going to use a useState function. Where is that? So, yes, we have to use useState, and here I'm going to pass the parameter that is, by default we have hash f as the value for this background. So it's better to use hash triple D. I'm going to use hash triple D. Alright, so that means we are using a background color. So we just used hash triple D as the background color here. So we have to set the background color for this. So it's better to use a division here. I'm going to use a division. So alright. So this is the closing. And what I'm going to do, so I just implement the style attribute here because we need to apply the styles, right? So style, and I'm going to use equals to. So we have to use the parameter that is background. So background. Okay. So here I'm going to use the background color that is. So we already used this. This is the background, right? So I'm going to use background here too. Alright. So let me save this. It's time to execute the code. Yes, we are able to see the background color. This is the background color here. So this is the mobile number, and we have the background color that is gray color, right? So let me open the coding part, and from here we have to implement the regular expression. So when we are going to key up, so I'm going to use on key up function. So on key up, I'm going to use a function here. So the function name is change background. So the background must be changed based on the regular expression pattern. Change background is a callback function here. So we have to create a function and we have to call that when we are going to trigger the on key up event handler. So I'm going to implement the function that is change background. So function and change background. So remember everyone, we have to pass the event here because based on that only we can get the value from the input field. So for example, here I'm going to use console.log statement. Here I'm going to use event dot target dot result. So I'm going to pass event as a parameter here. So here we just represented a destructure method because we are using useState effect. So if you observe this, we used useState hook concept, and based on that we can manage the state in the functional component. So background is the initialization and set background is the manipulation of this function. All. So here we are able to call a function. So whenever we are going to on key up, so then this function will be called. So this is the callback here. So when the on key up event triggered, this function will be called, and what are the contents available in this function that will be executed after. And save this and execute in the browser. So this is the mobile number, right? So we wrote a regular expression. So this is based on the on key up event, and I'm going to use console statement here. It's console.log. So here we implemented the console.log statement. So we have to check it out in console window. So I'm going to type something. Now we are able to see undefined because we are not able to call the event. So because we didn't pass any kind of parameter in the calling function. I'm going to use event here. Alright. So let me save this and execute in the browser. So event, we are not able to see the event here. So event, and we have to use the arrow function. Alright. So we have to close that here also. So yes, this one. Alright. So let me save this again. And now we have to execute. Refresh. And here this is the output. I'm going to use the characters. So again we are able to see undefined as the result. Event.target.value. So not result, we have to pass the value. So event.target.value. So because we need to get that information from the input field. So I just used event.target.value always. So let me execute in the browser again. Just refresh this and type the numerical values in it. So now we are able to see the values. So now it's time to check the pattern by using the regular expression. So we used to something like 456 and 456. So we have to check this by using test condition. So what we have to do, so we have to represent a regular expression pattern. So I'm going to use a variable where reg equals to, and we know how to represent the regular expression. So we have to use slashes and we have to use cap symbol along with the dollar. Cap is for beginning and dollar is for ending characters. So as we used earlier, so we have to use same kind of regular expression for the mobile number. And here I'm going to use 0 to 9. And how many characters are there? So we have to follow 9 characters, right? So totally we have 10 digits. So we have to match 10 digits. So here I'm going to use reg.test. Alright, so alright. And execute. Just refresh again. So now we have to check it in console. So I'm going to enter 955, that is false statement. Observe this. 9555 or 95555 855. So how many characters are there? So 1, 2, 3, 5 and 8. So 10. Now that is true because this is the standard Indian mobile number. Now we are able to call this true. So here what we have to do, we have to change the background color of it when the condition matches. So here I'm going to use an if condition. If, and here I'm going to use braces. We have to implement the body part of this if condition. Here I'm going to call this background, that is background is already there, right? So I'm going to use set background. Set background, alright. So we have to implement the function for this. And what we have to do, so we have to check the background. So we are able to get a error. Set background is not defined. Okay, no problem. So where set background equals to, and what we have to do, we have to change the background color here. So that is background. I'm going to use green as the value for this. Save this. So we are able to see an error here. So expected an assignment or function call instead of sign expression. So that is in line number 7. Yes, we got an error in this. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to use parentheses instead of braces. And save this. Oh, background is not defined. Set background and use save, that's fine. So this is the green color. So this is the set background, right? Yes. Set background, and this is the function, and we have to use the background, and we have to change the color of it. So I'm going to use green color and save this. Set background is not defined. Set background and used it. So everything is fine. Yes. So here we are calling to this function that is change background, right? Change background, and this is the change background, and we are using if condition, and here we are using set background also, and here we are calling set background. So here we are able to see set background is not defined. So let me define this function outside of the if condition and save this and execute. Set background is not defined. Okay. Set background. Copy this once. Execute. Okay. So we are using everything is fine. So, but we have to change the event. So first of all, let me call this background here. So whether this is calling or not, let me check it out. So I'm going to use console.log statement here. Console.log statement, and what we have to do, we have to call the background property. So let me save this and execute in the browser. Background is not defined. Yes, we are not able to get that information from here. We have to call this first. So we used to change background, and we are able to call this also. Console.log and background. So we have to call this everywhere. So let me define this function after this. I'm going to define this function after this, and let me execute. Background is not defined. Line number 18, background is not defined. So here I'm going to use this, and we have to define this in the global. I'm going to define this here. So let me execute. So can't be called to the top level. React hooks must be called in the React function component. Yes. So here we should not use like this. So we have to copy this in the function component only. So export default function and form input. So that is used here. That is also fine. And here we're passing event. And I'm going to pass the background parameter here. What will happen? Let me look into this. So what is that? So background. And check this out and execute in the browser. Here also I'm going to use the background because we are calling that by using this. So this is also background. And here I'm going to save this and execute in the browser again. So here whenever we are going to key up, then this function will be called. So I'm going to use key. So we're able to see that the value has triple D. Alright. So here I'm going to pass another parameter, that is set background. So set background is also there, right? So we have to use multiple calls. So that is the reason we are not able to get the result, proper result. So here I'm going to use the test condition. Again we have to use 3 parameters because we used 3 parameters, right? Set background. Again I'm going to use set background here, because set background is a function call. Here I'm going to use set background. Set background is a function, we already know about it, and we have to use background, and we have to use green as the answer here. So this is whenever the condition gets true. So let me refresh and execute. Alright, I'm going to enter the value, that is 95555 3990. So how many characters are there? How many digits are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I will try to use 1. So we just use the background color as this, but the background color is not changed here because so set background is a function, right? So set background, that is fine. And this is the set background function, and we are going to use background also. So here this is the background, and we are able to see that here also. We just applied the green color for this, and so first of all we have to display whether this condition is working or not. So test.target.value. So I'm going to use the console.log statement. So here I'm going to use true as the result. Alright, so I'm going to print the true. Whenever the test condition matches to the regular expression, we have to display this information, that is true. So let me save this and execute in the browser. Refresh, and we have to use the number 599 or 5774. Yes, we are able to see that true value, but when we are going to call the function, we are not able to get that information. That's what. So here what I'm going to do, so here I'm going to use a function call. So we are able to see event at target. So I'm going to do one thing, that is event dot target dot style dot border equals to, I'm going to use the border syntax 1px solid, and we have to use green color background, right? So let me save this and execute in the browser again. Now it's time to execute this using the mobile number. So 98888 so 10. So if you observe this, so we're able to see the green color background here. So we just changed that. And very similar to this, when the function gets false, so we have to implement the else condition also. So in the else part, what we have to do, we have to use same kind of condition or same kind of statement, but we have to represent with other colors. I'm going to use red instead of green here. So and save this and execute in the browser again. Alright, so I'm going to enter 96675567789. I just used 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when we are going to remove this, now that is green color. When we are going to use 7, 8, 9 all this stuff, so we are able to see this is not an Indian mobile number. That is the reason we are able to see the green, the red color border. So this is very simple scenario, but when we are going to call the set background function, we are not able to call that function here. So everything is fine. Change background, and we are able to pass. We are able to call this function that is change background, and we are able to pass the value that is even. So this is okay. This is a traditional mechanism for changing the styles based on the match condition of a regular expression. So is that clear, everyone? So set background is a function. Form validation. Yes, set background is a function, right? Yes. But we are not able to call that function. So we just implemented by using a traditional mechanism, that is by using if condition. Yes, definitely I will explain it again. Yes, definitely I will explain. So actually we are planning to implement based on the useState mechanism. So by using useState, we have to change the background color whenever we are going to get the false statement by using regular expression pattern. So we used that, and similarly we used the true condition also. So when we are going to get the true condition, we are able to change the border color. So that is the reason we used event.target.style. Event is nothing but, if you observe this, on key up. On key up means the entire statement will be called. So that is input. Input block will be called. So event means input block. And here we are using change background. So we are passing event, change background and event. So similarly we are sending this parameter, that is background and set background. So that means we are accessing this background from here. So this is the background. If you observe this, this is the background. It holds as D as the result. We are using destructuring mechanism here, and the first variable is background and corresponding value is as D. Here we are sending that background color to the function, that is change background. So that is the reason I use change background, and this is the event and this is the background. But I used a set background here, but set background function is not calling. So let me use set background in this console.log statement. Set background and save this and execute in the browser. Refresh. And I would like to enter values. So what is there in set background function? So this is anonymous function. So useState. updates from state, use state, and all this stuff. That is belongs to the state functionality. So, but when we are going to execute that, so here we are using set background. So we are using set background, and that is a function we already know about it, and we used background also. So I'm going to use background. So we have to change the background to green. Alright, so it's better to use the style properties like this. And save this and execute in the browser. Let me enter 6, 7. Now we are able to see this. This is Indian standard mobile number. When I'm going to use 5 here, that is not a standard mobile number. So we have to get that information by using this function. So we are using set background function, and we are passing background and green as the parameter. So first of all, I would like to remove this background. It is green color. It is background and green. So we should not use a syntax like this. That is the reason we are not able to focus on this. So let me use braces for binding statement. So I will explain it again. So first of all, let me trial this one. So fail to compile. Format yes, function event background, and yes, okay. So set background, that is fine. Background, that is green. Even we are able to get the value from it. So let me use the object, that is color ash triple F. Right, so we have to represent in double quotations this one. So this is an object, but how we are going to call this? So we have to use background dot color here. So we have to use background dot color. Background dot color. Alright. So let me save this and let me execute. So we are not able to get any kind of background color here because we used hash triple D, right? No, hash triple F. So let me change this to hash triple D first. Hash triple D. I just used hash triple D, and let me execute. Now we are able to see that hash triple D, that is gray color, and I'm going to change this value to green. So let me enter the value. Yes, here we used green as a background color. So we have to use this instead of it. So instead of the if condition, set background, and background that is green. Save this and execute. Initially we are able to see the gray color background, so I'm going to enter the value 98888 588 100. So we are not able to change that. Refresh and execute the code again. So I'm going to pass 98888 588 10. So we are not able to get the green color background here. Let me check it out in the body part. So this is the body and this is the root element, and here we have the element. So we created a form element, right? So let me use header part. Yes, here input type equal to number, and the div style attribute will be changed here. So that is the reason we are not able to get that answer. So background and background.color. Okay. So what we have to do, so we have to use background.color here. Background.color, and that is green. We can simply use color because we have color, right? So we have only one property, that is color. All right. So let me save this and execute. Okay. So 98888 588 1001. Now we are able to see the green color background here. So if you observe this, we are able to see the green color background. So whatever it may be, we have to pass the data in the format of object because we are using string kind of data here. Very similar to this, we have to implement that when we are going to get that false statement as the result. So we have to use set background, and we have to use the color property, color, and we have to change this to red, and check this out and execute in the browser. So just refresh this one. Alright, I am going to use H. When we are going to use H, we are able to see red color background. I am going to use 98888 588 1. Yes, now it's fine. So we are able to find the difference here. We are able to find the difference when we are going to enter the exact value that matches to the regular expression. In the time we are able to see the green color background for this input field. But when we are going to enter the wrong statement, something like this, we're able to see the red color background. Alright. So this is how we are going to implement the regular expression. So this is a compact example. Is that clear, everyone? Or can I explain it again? Is that clear? We just implemented the regular expression. Clear? Yes. If you want me to explain that, I will explain that again. So whatever it may be, when we are going to use the state mechanism, we have to use the object like style in the use state method. So that is the reason we are not able to get the proper output till we are using the object like style, the set state method, that is use state. Yes, Gandham Nagasrija. So she's asked me to explain this again. Definitely, I will explain it again. First of all, I would like to remove an entire code part here. So I would like to remove entire code part, and I would like to explain it again. So where is the code? So this is the code format, right? So I'm going to remove all the stuff here. Remember, I'm going to remove all the stuff, so we don't have anything here. All right. So now it's time to implement the function. So here this function is for checking the phone number validation. So phone number validation. So we used form input.js. I'm going to create a function. So export default function, and the function, what is the function name? Form input. So this is the function, and we have to use a return statement here. So return statement, and I'm going to use a division, and here I'm going to use a form. Form. Here I'm going to use input. Input type equals to, this is the mobile number, right? So I'm going to use number, and for placeholder I'm going to use mobile number. So this is the mobile number. Okay. So now we implemented this. So I'm going to use a span element here. If you observe this, I'm going to use a span element. Span. So this is for representing the message. So I'm going to display a message here. So what I'm going to display, I'm going to display initially there is nothing. So I didn't use any kind of stuff here. So for better understanding, I'm going to use useState here. So we know how to represent the useState mechanism. So we have to use destructuring. So I'm going to use content. I'm going to use content along with set content. Okay, so I'm going to use useState. All right, here I'm going to represent an object. So the first one is background. So I'm going to use background. So the background color is, so initially we don't have any kind of background here. If you observe this, we don't have any kind of background here. And very similar to this, I'm going to use text. So we don't have any text here also. This is empty. Text is empty and the background is also empty. So here I'm going to use style equals to, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to use background. I just used background. So for better understanding, I'm going to use hash triple F. This is the color code, right? So hash triple F, that is white color. And here we are need to call this. We are using style attribute, and we are implementing the background property. So here I'm going to use background. So what is the background? So we have to get this information by calling this content dot background. So I'm going to use content dot background. So whenever we are going to use the style attribute, we have to represent it double binding statement. So we have to use double binding statement. So we just used the double binding statement. So we used content. In that content we have background, that is hash triple F, and text. Text is empty. Initially we have empty text. So we just displaying that information here. So if you observe this background, so we are not able to see any kind of background. So I'm going to use the break tag also. Break tag. And execute this in the browser. Refresh. Now we are able to see mobile number, and let me check the element here, element section. So this is the element section, right? So we have form, and this is the background. So that is the white color. So because we applied the background color as white. Alright. So when we are going to use the other information, for example, when I'm going to use hi here. So I just used hi, and we have to display that information between the span element. So what we have to do, we have to use the content dot text. So content is the variable here, and text is the name, key name. Alright, let me save this and execute in the browser. So we're able to see that hi here. We're able to see the hi message. And very similar to this, I'm going to use the customized values for the style attribute. So here I'm going to use text align, that is center. I'm going to use text align center. So let me save this and execute. Just refresh. This is the span element, so we're not able to get that text in the center alignment. Yes, this is not a block load element. That is the reason we are able to get this. So when we are going to use the block load element, for example, instead of span, I'm going to use article. So this is one of the block load element, right? So I'm going to use article and execute. Refresh. Now we are able to see that here. So this is the block element. That is the reason we are able to get that information in central element. So here what we did up to now, so we just created a use state mechanism and we used two contents in it. So first one is content, that is for initialization, and set content, this is for a modification the data. And we used a use state method. So in that use state we used background that is has triple F, that means it's a white color. So this is the default values. So we have to change these values based on the regular expression pattern matching. So is that clear up to now? Is that clear? Yes. If it's clear, I will go with the regular expression pattern. Nagasrija, is it? Yes, clear. Okay. Okay, it's clear up to now. So what we have to do, we have to implement the regular expression. For that, we have to write the on key up function. On key up. So this is one of the event handler. When we are going to use this, so we have to call a function. So we know we have to call the function. How we are going to call the function on all this stuff. So we have to use. First of all, we have to pass the event because we need to get that information, right? So we have to use event. And here we have to pass the parameter by using a function call. So I'm going to use test mobile. Test mobile is the function. Here I'm going to pass the parameters. So the first one is event. Alright, so let me pass this event first and implement the function. So we have to create a function with the name of test mobile. When we are going to key up, then this function call will be happen. So the function name is test mobile. I'm going to use function and test mobile. So we have to use event, that is something like E. I just used E. So event means the entire element will be called. That means input element. So we have to get the values from this input field. So for that, what we have to do, we have to use e.target.value. Either target that value means we can get the value available in that form control. I'm going to use console.log statement. Here I'm going to use e dot target dot value and check this in the browser whether we are able to get that value or not. So just refresh and execute. So I'm going to enter the values. So 4, 5. Yes, we are able to see that values here. That means we are able to get that information from the form control. So here we have another warning, that is set content is assigned a value but never used. Okay. So here I'm going to pass the I'm going to call the background. So let me check whether the background color is calling or not. So this is the value, so content. So I'm going to use content here, content, and save this and execute. Refresh. Yeah, content is defined, content is not defined. So what we have to do, so we have to call that also. So we have to pass the content also. So we are able to get that information in this function because this function is completely different and this function is completely different. Alright. So when we are going to use inner function, for example, here I would like to remove this and I would like to use the function inside of the function of it. Alright. So let me save this and execute. So refresh. Let me call this. So background hash triple F test, it is high. We're able to get that all the information here. Because we are not able to call that event. So if you observe this, yes, this content, right? So here instead of this content, I'm going to use e dot target dot value because we have to check this also because we implemented the function instead of the function. So I'm going to use e dot target dot value and execute in the browser again. Refresh. And enter the value. Yes, we are able to see that values also. So now it's clear what will happen. So we just use inside of the function. So we just used a function instead of another function. Alright. So now we have to change the color based on this function call. So we have to implement the test condition, the regular expression. I'm going to use where reg equals to. So we have to use starting, that is beginning character, and ending character, and between them we have to represent that. So first of all 6 to 9. So that is we have to use 1, and similarly next one is 0 to 9. So that is 9 characters. Alright. So now it's time to test this. So what we have to do, so we have to use if condition, if, and so we have to use reg dot test of, so the mobile number, right? So we have to use e dot target dot value. Alright. So we have to use braces also for this element. So and we have to implement the content here. So we have to use, so what is the second mechanism? So that is set content. So we have to use set content. So I'm going to use set content, and here I'm going to use the braces. So first one is we have to change the background. So I'm going to use background, and the background color is green. And the next one is we have to use the text. So the text here is something like valid mobile number. Alright. So very similar to this, we have to implement that else condition also, else part. I'm going to use else here. So here we have to use set content again. So set content, and this is the result. So here we have to use that, and what we have to do, we have to do the manipulations here. So we have to use red color instead of green, and similarly for valid we have to use invalid. Valid. So we are just changing the background and the text, because we already implemented that in the destructure mechanism. By default we have high, so based on the matching criteria we are changing that. Similarly, by default we have hash triple f as the background color. Here we are changing that to green when the test condition matches. And similarly, we can change that into red because we have to observe the else part also, that is not matching. So let me save this and execute in the browser and refresh. And I'm going to use 6, that is invalid mobile number. I'm going to use 6895431, and I'm going to use 78. So now that is valid mobile number. So when we are going to use a 5 instead of 6, so that is invalid mobile number, because this this mobile number not matches to the regular expression we implemented. Similarly, when we are going to use 4, that is also similar. I'm going to use 7 instead of it, that is valid mobile number. When I'm going to use 9, that is also valid mobile number. Again 8, that is also valid mobile number. Alright, so this is how we are going to implement it, by using the regular expressions as well as the color combinations. When we are going to use the same functionality by using class component, that is very similar, very easy also. So this is all about how we are going to change the properties of a state by using use state mechanism along with the regular expression patterns. Test email ID. Okay, definitely. Definitely, first of all, we have to implement the email ID, right? Regular expression for email ID. Okay. So let me open the coding part of this one. So first of all, we have to implement the email ID. So I'm going to use same kind of syntax, and I'm going to use, so this is the email ID, right? Email ID. So I just use email ID. So first of all, let me check this once. Share the code in yes. Okay. Refresh. Now everything is gone. So we have to yes, we have to implement the regular expression for email ID. Okay. So let me open the code. So here what we have to do, so I'm going to use the beginning and ending. So I just want to implement the simplistic form of email ID. So I'm going to use /s, that means we don't have any kind of spaces, and we need to have at symbol, right? We should have at least at symbol, and again I'm going to use the domain name like this, and again we have to use plus symbol. All right. So yes, so let me save this and execute in the browser. So we have to use yes, it's fine. So this is the email ID I'm going to use. Yes, we have to use the text field, right? So we used the number kind of data. So instead of it, we have to use text. So we pass the value as number in the type attribute. So I'm going to use text here and execute in the browser. Refresh. I'm going to use HANUMAN KUMAR 035 at Gmail. Yes, we have to use dot also, right? So we have to use dot also. So we need to validate it. So yes, it's symbol, that's fine. And again, what we have to do, we have to use the dot also. This is the simplistic form of email ID. So yes, here plus, and we have to use dot symbol. And again, what we have to do, so we have to use slash capital S and save this and execute in the browser. Refresh once, and I'm going to use HANUMAN KUMAR 035 at Gmail, and dot is not validating here, dot com. So we have, this is the email ID, right? So we are using dot, and so we have to use dot symbol in regular expression. Uh, so we have to use dot symbol. So let me use dot in like this and execute in the browser. Refresh, and I'm going to use HANUMAN KUMAR 035 at Gmail, and we have to use dot. Yes, it's fine. Now it's working. .com. Yes, we are not able to get the result. Dot is also fine, and okay. So we have to implement the range, and this is fine. I'm going to use .com. Alright, this is fine, and this is the standard email ID regular expression. So this is the shortcut. So we have to use different kinds of symbols. That is the advanced concept, but this is the shortcut for the regular expression for validating the email ID. So this is valid email ID, and the else block is invalid. So invalid email ID. Alright. So is that clear, everyone? So we just implemented the regular expression for email ID. So change the content instead of mobile number into email. Yes, yes, we just did that, right? Is that clear, everyone? Kindly respond in the chat box. So I just keep that information in the regular GitHub documentation. Okay, so this is for regular expression. So regular expression in React. All right. So I'm going to paste the code here. All right. So this is the code here. Commit changes. And you can find the code here. So this is for email ID. This regular expression is for email ID. So this is not finalized email ID regular expression. We just used a shorthand for this. And we have to discuss how we are going to call the props in. Sir, can you say? Yes, definitely. So this is the GitHub link. You can find this here. So similarly, we have to use the props concept in the class components also. So we know how to access the props in function component, but how we are going to access that in class components, that is very important. So where is the code? So this is our code, right? So we have app.js and header. So we completed up to now. So we just discussed the regular expressions also. I'm going to remove this here and this one also. I'm going to remove this one also. So I would like to remove all this stuff. So in the header, I'm going to remove the form input also. All right. So I just remove this import statement also. All right. So here we know how to access the props in functional component, because header is the function component. Instead of this function component, I'm going to use a class component. So for that we have to use import react from and react. All right. So we have to use class. Before going to do this, I'm going to use a constructor. So okay, no problem. Class. So the class name is header. Extends react dot component. And I'm going to use a render method, and we have to use a return statement. So whatever it may be, we have to get that information from the component base class. So I'm going to use the fragments, React fragments. Here I'm going to implement the code module, that is h2, and this is the heading part. This is the header component. So this is the header component. Let me execute this in the browser. So header does not contain any kind of default export. Okay, let me use that also. So what we have to do, we have to use export default method. Export default method, and save this and execute. Now we are able to see that is header component. That's fine. We are able to get the header component. But here when we're going to pass the data from app.js again, so here I'm going to pass the data from this app.js to header. I'm going to use a name. I'm going to use my name as the value for this Hanuman, and I'm going to use role, that is full stack developer. All right. So and save this, and here we are passing the information to the header.js. Now it's time to access this information here. So what we have to do, so we have to use the binding statement, and we can use this dot props dot, and what are the keys are there? So name is the key, right? So we have to use the name here because we are passing the name from here. Name is Hanuman and role is full stack, and we're able to get that information by using this dot props dot name here. So let me execute in the browser, and now we're able to see that Hanuman is displaying here. And very similar to this, if you want to display the role, so Hanuman is working as a, and I'm going to use this dot props dot role. Alright, so we just use this dot props dot role and execute in the browser again. So if you observe this, Hanuman is working as a full stack developer. So if you want to access the props values in the class component, we have to use this dot props dot name. Very similar to this, I'm going to use constructor method. And I'm going to use super method. Alright. So here I'm going to print the values, that is console.log statement. I'm going to use this dot props dot name. I'm going to use this here. So this is this keyword, right? So this dot props dot name, and execute this in the browser. Just refresh. So cannot read property. We are getting some kind of error. Cannot read property name of undefined. So the constructor is for getting information from the base class or the parent class. If you want to get the props information there, we have to use props keyword here. I just used the props in constructor. And save this and execute. Just refresh. Can't read property name. Yes, I'm going to use props in the super also. Save this and execute. Now we're able to see that, and it's time to execute the console. In the console, we are able to see that Hanuman. Alright. So if you want to access that information in the constructor method, so we have to use the props keyword there. So we have to pass the props as the parameter for the constructor. Very similar to this, we can use the backstick mark, and we have to use dollar symbol, and we have to pass the result like this. And here I'm going to use working as a. So again I'm going to use dollar, and again also we have to pass this dot props dot role. All right. So let me save this and execute in the browser. So refresh, and yes, we're able to get this. So Hanuman working as a full stack developer. So if you remove this here, I'm going to remove this. So what will happen? And save this and execute in the browser. So we're able to see a failed error, that is failed to compile. So props is not defined. So if you want to use the props information in the constructor method, we have to pass the parameter, that is props. Alright, so I'm going to use p instead of props. I'm going to use p. So here also I'm going to use p, and here also we have to use p. Alright, very similar to this, I'm going to use p here also, and save this and execute in the browser. So yes, refresh. So if you observe this, we are getting errors. So type error, cannot read property name of undefined. So in the functional component, we can use any kind of name instead of props. But when we are going to use the props in the class component, we have to use the parameter as props only. So we have to represent props only. So we need not to use any kind of other customized names instead of props for getting information from the props. Alright. So this is how we are going to access that information from the props in the constructor method. So if you refresh this, let me refresh this one, and this is fine. Alright. Very similar to this, we can use the destructure mechanism also. We can use destructuring also. Here I'm going to do one thing. So I'm going to represent the destructuring. So where I'm going to use name comma role. Here I'm going to pass this dot props. Alright. So this means this is a destructuring mechanism. So we need not to use this dot props again. We can represent by using name and role directly. So I just used name and role directly because we already defined here name and role, and whatever the information we are getting from the object, that will be stored in this props. So we are assigning each and every value from this props to name as well as the role, and execute in the browser. Refresh. So we are getting error, type error undefined. Type error undefined is a function, is not a function. So where is that? Where name equals to okay. So let me use that about the render method. This one. Oh, this is props. This is also not defined here. What happened? Where name role equals to this dot props. So I'm going to display that's fine. Where name equals to yes role name role this dot props, that's fine. Name and role. So what is that error here? Build failed, node margins. Type error undefined is not a function. For this, I'm going to use a console.log statement. Console.log statement, and I'm going to use this dot props. Alright, and save this and execute in the browser. So unexpected use of name. Okay, no problem. So I'm going to remove this stuff. I will use this later. First of all, we have to get information from the props, and we have to present the data in the console window. Yes, we are able to get that information, name, and that is full stack developer. That's fine. So I'm going to use a const keyword because most of the cases we are changing that values. So I'm going to use name comma a role, and we have to assign this to this dot props. And save this and execute in the browser. Okay, so let me remove the stuff here, console.log function, and refresh. name role this dot props. So we're able to get that result properly. Console log this dot props. That's fine, absolutely. Refresh. So we're able to get this here. So I'm going to use type of, and I'm going to use this dot props. That's fine. Yeah, this is an object, right? So this is an object. And I'm going to create where name equals to this dot props dot name. Okay, and I'm going to access that information here. Save this and execute. Hanuman is working as. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to use name and role again. This is the props only. Type error. Save this and execute. Type error. Everything is fine. This dot props. So where name and role this dot props. That's fine. So ReactJs. So name and role. That's fine. We use role here. We'll get that information here. So yes. So we are passing the props in the object, right? So why we are using array? So we have to use props like this. So we have to use object destructuring. Alright, so let me refresh this and execute in the browser. Yes, now we are able to see this. Hanuman is working as a full stack developer. So because we used array, so but we are passing an object. So if you observe this dot props is an object, but we are using array. So that is the reason we are not able to call that information. So that's why we got an error. So this is how we are going to use props in the class, and this is the props destructuring. Is that clear, everyone? Sir, I think name, role, values, we need to assign. No. So it's enough. And is that clear, everyone? How we are going to access the props information? Yes, it's clear. So we discussed how to implement the regular expression in ReactJs, as well as we discussed the props concept in React. So up to now, the props concept is completely covered. So we implemented the props concept in class components as well as the functional components also. Okay, so now it's time to wind up the session for today, and we'll continue day after tomorrow. Okay, thank you everyone.